There is a direct correlation between the MCU thriving and Robert Downey Jr. portraying Iron Man within the MCU. Is it mere happenstance? I'm not really sure, but there's one thing that is certain. The first three phases of the MCU, the driving force behind it was Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Obviously, we saw him, his demise. That's what we saw. We saw his demise at the end of Endgame in a fairly dramatic moment. In fact, I thought it was a really good moment and a nice send-off for the character. Unfortunately, they also got rid of Captain America. They aged him up. We lost Scarlet Witch along the way, and really we only had like Fat Thor, which was made just a complete joke, even when they made him skinny in Thor Love and Thunder. You have Doofus Hulk, Mark Ruffalo, which really isn't a leading character. We still have Hawkeye, but he's been replaced by Kate Bishop, and there just aren't very many of the original characters left to turn to. And the ones that are left are kind of a laughing stock at this point. There's nowhere left to go. So apparently Kevin Feige of the MCU and Marvel Studios have picked their replacement for Robert Downey Jr. not to play Iron Man, but to be the driving force of the MCU through to Kang Dynasty, then through to Secret Wars, which will be like the reset, where we'll likely get a replacement Iron Man coming back. A lot of people thought that Robert Downey Jr. was coming back. In fact, we had people going out there and saying, yeah, I've heard that it's actually signed and sealed and delivered. He's actually already back. They just haven't announced it yet. It turns out that is likely not the case and likely will never be the case. In an interview with Vanity Fair about the third act of Downey's decades-long career, the president of Marvel Studios addressed the rumors that all the original Avengers would be returning in one form or another in a future MCU phase. He said, "We are going to keep that moment and not touch that moment again. We all worked very hard for many years to get to that, and we would never want to magically undo it in any way." So there you go. Kevin Feige is adamant that we will not see Robert Downey Jr. return as Iron Man. He's not coming back. Now, he didn't mention the other Avengers out there, your Chris Evans and stuff like that. He didn't really mention them. Will they return? I'm not really sure. I don't think any of them would quite have the impact of Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, although Chris Evans, Captain America, is highly thought of. But he is in the middle of being replaced. We do have Captain America Brave New World coming out, which absolutely has bomb written all over it. I imagine that movie is going to be another enormous black eye on the face of Kevin Feige in 2025, because they've got that. They've got Blade. Oh, and Thunderbolts? Thunderbolts, I believe it. Those are the three big movies coming out for the MCU in 2025. But we still have 2024, which has essentially been vacated by Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios in the MCU, except for Deadpool 3. And just yesterday, I was talking about how it was going to be kind of cool because Deadpool, despite being kind of an X-Men character and obviously belonging to Fox at the time, was never really associated with the actual Fox X-Men universes that they were doing, even the original one or the prequel one and all that kind of stuff. He was always kind of his own thing, sitting on the sideline. And for some reason, Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios are going to remove the uniqueness of the character, and what makes him probably tick and maintain his status as a fan favorite is something people are looking forward to, and turning him into something else. The anticipation surrounding Deadpool 3 has reached new heights as we get closer to seeing Ryan Reynolds, Wade Wilson, and Hugh Jackman's Wolverine on the screen together. The problem is, whispers in the industry suggest that the film will play a crucial role in setting up the multiversal conflict of Avengers Secret Wars. Hollywood insider Daniel Richman has gone on record asserting that Deadpool 3 is shaping up to be one of the most important films in Marvel's current multiverse saga. Richman claims that the studio is remarkably confident in the film's quality, and it is poised to lay the groundwork for the events in Avengers Secret Wars scheduled for 2027. Marvel seems intent on making the film bring certain characters into the MCU and lay the foundation for everything that comes after it. I can't imagine an acquiring company misreading the tea leaves regarding Deadpool and why he's popular. Wow, you have a character that's popular that hasn't bombed yet, that you have a movie coming out with, so we're going to use him as the springboard to Secret Wars, even though it makes no sense. Obviously, they're going to be connecting the multiverses and all that stuff, and I understand Deadpool is tangentially associated with the Fox X-Men universe or whatever, but my goodness, why don't you just cut the nuts right off of Ryan Reynolds and Deadpool while you're at it? Like, he's not going to be Wade Wilson. He's not going to be what made him popular in the first place. And I really enjoyed Deadpool 1. I know Jim really enjoyed it when he took his like 5-year-old to it, which I didn't feel was appropriate, but hey, that's him, not me. But I did not like Deadpool 2 as much. So I guess at least they're taking it another direction. It will not be a carbon copy of the other ones because they're going to use it as the springboard into the Multiverse Saga and Secret Wars. Like, you can't make this stuff up. And it sounds like it's probably true because we do know that Hugh Jackman is going to be in there. And that's one of the certain characters they were talking about. But there's another cameo that's going to be in this movie. And I imagine a bunch more that we're not even aware of that are going to be thrown in there as the big Easter eggs and what's supposed to make you excited. Although I imagine a Ryan Reynolds Deadpool movie probably does sell itself. It's got its own audience built in. But I do not believe like the Deadpool audience and the MCU audience are completely the same. And even the people that like the MCU and like Deadpool like them for the same reason and wants to see like the MCU version of Deadpool as he's introducing more multiverse concepts rather than being himself and executing some of the stuff that made the character cool to begin with. What a miscalculation. Like, you can't make this stuff up. And then the worst part about this really is the other certain character that we know that they're going to be introducing. This was the wildest thing I've seen in a long time, and probably a bigger miss on the part of Kevin Feige and Marvel Studios. Per the Hollywood Reporter, Jennifer Garner will reprise her role as Elektra Natchios in Deadpool 3, 20 years after she first appeared in the much-maligned Daredevil. While she was definitely a high point in an otherwise unwatchable film, no one's exactly been asking for a Daredevil revival. Garner's Elektra spinoff didn't fare much better, so it's interesting that Marvel would announce her return and not that of a more in-demand characters. It doesn't seem like this Elektra cameo is just another case of nostalgia bait. If Marvel wanted to bring Elektra into the MCU proper, they could always tap Elodie Yung, who played the character to perfection in Netflix's Defender saga. Yeah, isn't that weird? It's like, I understand the Daredevil movie exists, and apparently there's a director's cut that's it's like a whole new film, and it's amazing. But I don't believe it because I saw the original one with Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner, and the guy that plays the Penguin was Bullseye. Colin Farrell, who's had a weird career. In fact, I would say Colin Farrell's really strange portrayal of Bullseye in the movie is the high point, although I will admit Jennifer Garner did look absolutely amazing as Electric Nachos in the first Daredevil movie. But it's been superseded. There's actually been a better Daredevil since then with Charlie Cox and Elodie Yung and fucking Vincent D'Onofrio, and they're reviving it at Marvel. Why would you want to remind people of this movie? And let's not forget, Jennifer Garner was like 30, I think, when Daredevil came out, and now she's in her 50s. You know, she's like grandma age. Like, who the fuck asked for like old lady Electric Nachos? Old lady nachos? Like, I just don't feel like there's any like need for that. Like, anybody's wanting to see it, but it is an Easter egg. It's member berries, but it's like the worst kind of member berries that are reminded you of something that wasn't good to begin with. And so it's just really strange. You're going to use Deadpool 3 to bring back, you know, Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Yeah, that makes sense. Put him in the yellow costume, even better. So now we're getting member berries on top of member berries. But then we're also going to bring back Old Lady Nachos for no reason whatsoever when there's a younger version of the character that actually ties into the character that's going to be in your movies, you know, that's going to be on Disney Plus. It's like, okay, I guess we'll just do anything these days. And I wonder what the other cameos are going to be to set up the multiversal saga. But we are getting Old Lady Nachos, Jennifer Garner in her 50s, putting on the electric gear once again. And while she certainly has kept herself in shape, and she looks absolutely magnificent for her age, I don't want to undersell Jennifer Garner and just how amazingly beautiful she is. There's no doubt about that, but like, just keep in mind she's in her 50s, and that's kind of a strange thing. This is probably why all this weird stuff with Iger's happening. He was just going out there admitting all of Disney's mistakes just a few days before he announced this. Just days after a statement to the press indicating his disappointment at Bob Chapek, Disney CEO Bob Iger has announced his eventual departure from the company. The multimillionaire plans to step down when his contract formally ends in the year 2026. Per a recent report from Fox Business, Iger previously stepped down from the role in 2021, allowing Bob Chapek to hold the position just under 2 years before being ousted by the board. And this tells me that Bob Iger sees the writing on the wall, that probably Old Lady Nachos is not going to do it, putting all of your eggs in the Deadpool 3 basket to further the interest in the Multiverse Saga probably isn't the way to go. And he probably knows he's just completely screwed. He's never going to be the man on the white horse to save Disney and the MCU and Star Wars and Lucasfilm and Pixar from all of his stupid mistakes that he kind of just dumped on Bob Chapek and then sacrificed him as he tried to return to fix all the mistakes he probably saw were going to happen anyway. And he's only going to be around for a couple more years before he steps away into the limelight, likely with an enormous golden parachute as well. But hey, man, I don't blame you. I wouldn't want to make it to Avengers Secret Wars either if you knew that Electric Nachos, Jennifer Garner at 51 years old, was going to be integral to the storytelling on how to get there. She might just be a cameo, but why would they put her in there if she wasn't important when there's another probably much cheaper actress to play it that's actually ties into the universe that you have? It's such a weird stuff, but obviously the bad news is Robert Downey Jr. is not coming back. He's not going to portray Iron Man ever again. Kevin Feige appreciates that moment. They built up to it for years, and they're not going to replace it. I do believe we will get another Iron Man. I don't think it's going to be Ironheart. We will get another actor once Secret Wars happens, the reboot happens, and we get some other version of the Marvel Comics universe on the big screen. Maybe they'll do the Ultimate Universe. Although, to be completely fair, a ton, and I do mean a metric ton of stuff was lifted from the Ultimate Universe and already thrown into the MCU. So should be interesting stuff here. And I don't know, there you go. Robert Downey Jr. is out, and Deadpool 3 is in as the new driving force for the MCU. And I don't know what to make of it, but it probably gets worse before it gets better for Disney and Bob Iger and all these people. And Bob Iger probably needs to leave before this can become fixed, because he has embedded himself and Disney in the culture wars. Even if he has said recently that we need to stop doing that, there's no way this dude is going to be able to stop that. He's created the culture at Disney. He's a huge part of the problem, and it ain't never going to change. It's never going to be fixed until he leaves, which apparently is going to happen in 2026. There's also a link in the video description.